Harry Triguboff is Australia's largest apartment owner and developer. And in this interview, he lets us into some of the secrets of his business. And the first one is, look for where the demand is. And really that applies to just about every business you can think about. And secondly, in the property business, there is the problem of approvals. And it particularly applies to apartments. And you have to get that right. And you have to take your time. And finally, he gives us a warning that the industry itself, the apartment industry, is facing quite difficult times with high interest rates and less Chinese demand. So be careful. Harry, how did you come to build your first apartment in Sydney in 63? You were driving a taxi before that.
Yeah, I was doing all kinds of things, yeah. But I also was a salesman in real estate. And I think I was a very bad salesman.
Really?
But I was a very good student. I learned from my purchasers what they wanted. It's no good pushing down their throat what I had to learn. So I learned what they wanted, and I saw that the market didn't have it, because we had no apartments. The problem was that there was a lot of rent control. That meant that people couldn't raise their rents. So the investors didn't come into it at all, because they could never raise the rents. So I was lucky that just before I came into it, they abolished the rent control. A matter of a year or two before, but things take time to start. I didn't realize all that. I just thought, well, it's a good idea. And just to give you an example of how the rents worked in those days, I used to pay to T.B. Belloc, from Progress and Properties. It was his first development. I was his first tenant, and it was his first development. In Woollahra, £11 a week rent, and I charged in my Dulwich Hill apartments, the little ones that rubbish, no outlook, nothing, also £11.
Right.
So £11 was the maximum of what people could pay. It just showed what the terrific demand there was.
Okay.
And nobody was looking after the demand.
So you began building these units and
Yeah.
apartments.
Yeah.
How did you come to keep them? Mostly when people build apartments, they sell them and go on to the next one.
Yeah.
But you developed a portfolio of them.
The reason was that I had a lot of money, and I was lending money to my purchasers.
Okay.
I called it vendor finance.
Right.
I used to have 600 million I used to lend to purchasers.
How did you get the money?
Just profits. So then I had the money, and I lent the money out. And I thought, well, that's not good business to lend money out. And anyway, the banks became easier, so the purchasers paid me back. Because I always made it easy for purchasers to pay back, because I'm not a bank. Bank has to lend money. I only lend money if I have to help the purchaser. So I had all that money, and the councils would never approve anything. Now here comes the real problem, is the councils and their approvals. I could buy as much land as I like, but I couldn't get enough approvals. So I didn't have enough approvals, I had money left over, so I said, well, what's the point then of just keep lending money out, so we might as well keep the apartments. So then when we started to keep apartments, I said, well, it's even better to have serviced apartments, so the income is even better. So then I had now service apartments and apartments for residential.
And so now how many apartments do you have in Sydney?
Finished ones, Sydney and surfers, 4,000.
4,000.
Yeah.
And how many are you producing each year?
Each year I'm producing for many, many years the same amount.
Yes.
As I've always said, I'm always controlled by the council. How much can I get approved? I produce each year over 1,000, 1,200 average.
And the people, you started off working out that people wanted apartments.
Yeah.
Do they still want the same sort of apartments? How's the demand changed?
Oh, no. They want different apartments. We have to be always abreast of progress. So the idea is that every year, every block has to be a little bit better than the block before. Because otherwise what happens, the people who bought before from me will undercut me. Okay. So that is what pushes me to improve all the time. Right? Now, of course, the size might be different. It depends what I think they want. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, that's different. And the size is affected a lot by the interest rates. As interest rates go up, then they can afford a smaller apartment. As interest rates go down, they can afford a bigger apartment. That has a big effect on what we build.
Now, the large corporations, the Stocklands and people like that, they once upon a time built lots and lots of apartments, but don't do so now. Why did that happen?
Well, they never really built as much as we did, but they are diversified. And because it takes so long to get approvals, they cannot give a steady flow of profits. Once he gets approval, he builds, then he finishes the block, and the block is finished all at once. So he may not have any profit for 2 years on that particular land, or 3 years, or 5 years. So that really is no good for the stock exchange, because he has to show profits all the time. That's the beauty of having shops. A shopkeeper sells every day, whereas in our business, it depends on many other things. We've been always battling very hard to get this approval process a lot quicker. We've succeeded in Queensland, and we are succeeding in Sydney, but the culture is embedded very, very strongly. So in the old days, they used to say that we don't need apartments, we don't need this, we don't need that. But of course now they know that we do need them, and we always needed them because the buyers always needed them. It was the people talking they didn't need it. The buyer always wanted them.
What's your advice to other property developers and people building apartments? What have you learnt from your business that you can pass on to them?
I think that the important thing is position, right? And the volume that you can sell. You might have the best position in the world, but if the apartments are very expensive, you won't sell many. And if you just sell a few and you think that you've already done it, it doesn't mean anything. You have to see. So it's not only what you sell, but what is sold by others in the area. You have to watch that. I think the other thing is that where you sell, the prices must be quite reasonable. You can't sell where the prices are very low. Now, that has adjusted itself a lot in the last 3-4 years, that very poor areas have suddenly got much higher prices. And that is because of lack of supply. So suddenly poor areas have really done better than the rich areas because there's no supply, so people will adjust to that area. So anyway, so the amount you can sell this. The next thing is the banks now like these pre-sales. That's a very dangerous thing. Dangerous for the bank, dangerous for the builder, dangerous for everybody. Because must have confidence. I personally sell as I build. So I start building, I sell a few, and as I go along, I sell more and more and more. Hopefully, I finish selling as I finish the building, but maybe not. Doesn't matter. A bit later, maybe. Right? That is the right way to do, because we always believe that prices must go up. A developer, if he doesn't believe that prices will always go up, he shouldn't be in the game.
But why is pre-selling dangerous?
Well, this is the danger. If prices go down, then the purchasers will not complete. And then the builder, the developer will be stuck with 10%. If the prices go up, then he has undersold.
That's right.
So now the banks force him to do it because they think it's safe. But it isn't really all that safe. And you can see many, many blocks with these problems where they're going to start forcing them to settle, and banks don't like to do it. Nobody wants to do it.
Okay.
So really, there must be confidence in the whole process.
But so really, though, your advantage is that you have a capital base. Mm. The fact that people sell off the plan usually means they don't have a big enough capital base.
That's right. They don't have enough capital base, and they're in a dreadful hurry, while the bank's still giving him the money. And that makes it unstable. But anyway, that's the way it's done.
You've got to be pretty careful dealing with your bank in the property business, haven't you? They can lead you into a trap.
Oh, very easily. Because one guy wants the business, so he's nice to you. The other guy has to get back the money. He's tough with you. So let's hope you never see the other guy.
So what's your advice to people in dealing with banks?
Well, I think they should have a reasonable deposit myself.
Okay.
So then the bank feels better too.
Yes.
And not to hurry, because I promise them there will always be buyers. There will be always plenty of buyers. As I always say, there was always more buyers than apartments. There's no question about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So they shouldn't be in a hurry. They should have some finance themselves, and then they will be able to grow. Because I had very tough times in 1973 with the banks,
Yes.
and I paid them all off, and whatever I had left, I never borrowed again. So when you start, you must borrow, because otherwise how can you start? But as soon as you can, get rid of your debt as much as possible so that you control your business. And that's good for bank and you.
When you look forward to the current situation, are you concerned by the rising interest rates in Australia?
Yes, I've been very much concerned for a very long time. 2 years ago, when we had the problems with the structure of all the finance, the banks became very good. They dropped their interest rates. Reserve Bank brought down the interest rates. Banks brought down the interest rates, and the government gave first home buyers 20,000, 21,000. So it was a wonderful thing. But then, of course, the government said, well, that's enough. We won't give you any more money. First thing. And the Reserve Bank says, well, we will come back to our normal rates. So suddenly, the people's repayments became from $500 a week to $800 a week. Now people can't do it, you see. It's not that they expected interest rates to go down. They expected the interest rates to stay that way or go up a little bit. I mean, it was no point of Reserve Bank dropping the interest rates and the banks dropping interest rates and the government giving 20,000 and then telling the people, well, now this is only for a short while. In a few months it will be, you'll have to double. So nobody would buy. So nobody told them anything. Right. I'm not blaming them. I'm very grateful the government did it and the bank. I'm very happy about that. But this is not what happened. So the repayments became very great. And rents went up. Because what happens, as I've said all along, in Sydney, I'm talking about Sydney now, the supply has never ever caught up with demand. When they write there's 20,000 apartments that we need more, or 50,000, 100, it's all nonsense. Because what happens in practice is the boyfriend goes with the girlfriend, the mother keeps the son, and I mean, so they make do somehow. They, instead of having in an apartment 2 people, you suddenly have 4 people.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's how they really overcome the problem. But nobody wants to be 4. Everybody is hoping to be back to 2. Right. So the demand is forever. There's no problem in Sydney. Right. So what happened then is we were in big trouble because people couldn't pay. But come along the Chinese buyers, and they came in big numbers. And I asked them, why do you buy here? And they say, because it is cheaper than China. They're very happy. It was very cheap. They compared it to Shanghai, Beijing. It was very good. Sydney, Beijing, Shanghai, very good. So we were all very happy and coasting along. But then the interest rates went up and up and up. So the Chinese are not so worried about interest rates because they bring the money from there. It doesn't matter. But then what happened lately is that our dollar shot up. Oh, they say, now your properties are expensive. Oh, so we will not buy as many. And this is the problem we have now. So the interest rates, first they stopped the local buyers, then they got the dollar up, and now they're getting rid of the Chinese buyer. And we don't know if it keeps on going up.
So you're actually putting a warning out to people in the property business, hey, there's danger here.
Definitely, right. Especially those that are borrowing all the time, because now this is here now for me, so I will rent more. I won't sell as many, sell few. I won't buy so much land. But the big result is also that the rents are going up. Now those have been going up for a long time now, because there's not enough supply.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there'll be less supply. The people will not be building more.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.